This video is brought to you by my absolutely incredible patrons. Seriously, I would not be able to bring you all this content without them. Thank you all so much. If you want to join them, head to the link on screen or click the link in the description. If we reach my current goal, I'll be able to come to a USA convention a lot sooner and finally meet a lot of you. But for now, enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to this week's bottle episode. This week I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of fursuits. Because on the outside, fursuits do look like just fun and games, you know, they're pretty awesome, but there are actually a lot of underlying cons that may deter you from getting a fursuit if you're not really passionate about them. So I'm going to talk about everything there is, and then that can help you sort of decide on where you stand. So the most obvious pro is they're awesome. They both look and they feel pretty awesome. Like, you've got your very own 100% handmade, 100% unique furry animal costume. Like, it's pretty random, but it's still pretty awesome. Like, there will never ever be another fursuit that looks just like yours. You know, it's literally original artwork that you can wear. And if it was a commission, not only is it tailor-made just for you, but you also get to see your character be brought to life. You know, something that was once just a drawing on a piece of paper is now running and jumping around and flailing like a wild animal. Yeah, so they look pretty awesome and it feels pretty amazing to own a fursuit. And then for my next pro, you can make someone's day just by being in it. Because, you know, fursuits being, you know, a not very common kind of hobby, when you are appearing in someone's day-to-day life, you become the highlight. The average person doesn't get to see a fursuit very much, if at all, so you can really create some memories for them. Kids will forever tell the story of the day they went to the park and there was a giant 6-foot purple fox who gave them a hug and played with them, and not all his friends came along and he played with all the fluffy animals. Or there was a group of friends who went bowling, and then as they were bowling, a group of giant fluffy animals turned up and they started bowling too, and then bowled better than them. Or even people who have been devastated by tragedies. Like kids in hospitals, and you know, you got all the hurricane and stuff. People bring their fursuit along just to bring a few smiles, and they smile for just a couple of seconds because in that fursuit magic, all their worries just disappear, even for a tiny second. Or just scaring someone that's come to your house. Like, either way, you become the highlight of the day because it's just so different. And that's a really cool power to be able to have. And now with a fursuit, you can enter fursuit events. You know, like, while you don't need a fursuit to attend a convention or meet, you will need one for, you know, the fursuit dance competition, the fursuit games, the fursuit parade, unless you're a handler, but all that jazz. You can do them now, yay! Like, this is a pretty simple pro, but still a pro, yay! Now, this next one can be a pro or a con depending on the kind of person you are, but you will get attention. There is no denying that having a fursuit will get more people noticing you and then more people following you on your social medias and stuff. But this can also evolve into a con for you because there will be some people whose fondness for you is only fur deep. Like, they care about your fursuit, but not you. Like, there are so many times where I'm at a meet or a convention and I'm wearing Picari and everyone's so friendly and happy, like, yeah, oh my god, Picari, we love you. And then when I take the suit off later and I come back down, they don't want anything to do with me. It's kind of sad. Like, and they still know who I am. Like, oh yeah, hey, I was Picari before. They're like, oh hey. Like, people like that exist. But there is, of course, the opposite, and you can meet some pretty amazing people through fursuit related means. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't own a fursuit, you're not going to make friends. That's very much not the case. Like, a lot of my long-term friends in the fandom were people who I met at meets before I even had a suit. So you'll still definitely make friends without a fursuit, but fursuiting is a hobby. And you know, when you have a hobby, you meet more people who are into that hobby, and then you make friends with that common interest. Because like, a lot of fursuit makers will actually hold Telegram chat rooms for everyone who has a suit from them, which is pretty cool. And you get to meet a whole lot of people through those, and I've made a whole lot of international friends through those chats. And next, fursuiting is actually a really good exercise. Like, you're wearing kilos upon kilos, especially if it's a full suit on top of you, and you're already really hot and gross and sweaty. That's a con actually I'll go into later. But yeah, all that sweating and flailing around is actually really good exercise. Like, my tank top does not lie. Fursuiting is my cardio. I am definitely a lot fitter now than I was before I had a suit. So if you hate running or sports or moving in general like me, then fursuiting is a great way to get active. But yes, a con, fursuits do get extremely, like, crazy hot. Like, I'd say in this head now, it would be at least a good 30 degrees Celsius, but There's a Fahrenheit, I don't know what the Fahrenheit is, but that's actually pretty low for a fursuit head because 1, I'm sitting, 2, this head has very good ventilation because, you know, I've got such big eyeballs and I've got a nice big open mouth, like the air gets through quite well. But then there's the sweaty death trap that is my Adezu head, which is a resin head. It's got small eyes, the mouth is usually shut. I die in that head, it's so quick. It's even got a fan in the muzzle and I still die. So how hot your suit gets exactly depends entirely on the materials and who made it and whatnot, but either way, if you don't deal with being really hot and stuffy and sweaty very well, then fursuiting might not be quite as enjoyable as you might think. Now, let's face the most obvious con, the price. Fursuits are rarely an impulse buy, especially full ones. Like, a full suit will usually start at about 2,000 USD for a good one, so that is no small price. Now again, that is the starting price or the base price, which means if you want a suit at that price, you pretty much have to have an entirely white wolf or an entirely black wolf, you know, just the one color, and it's a canine because every maker knows how to do a canine. That's super easy. So anything more than that is where your price starts to go up. So more colors, more markings, more complex markings, padding, even just, you know, a species the maker hasn't done before, more features, all those things that add more time to the fursuit building process will make your price go up. Fursuits as a whole take a long time to build and good furs are quite expensive, so all that labor costs and all that expensive materials is why they're so expensive. So unless you've got a really good income or a lot of savings, you do have to plan and budget how you're going to get your fursuit quite carefully. Like even if you're just trying to make it yourself, the materials on their own are still going to be quite expensive, so you do need to be smart about it. So yeah, it sucks, but that's how it is, and I think our fursuit makers in this community are amazing and deserve every penny they get. And then my next con is fursuits don't happen overnight, especially if you've commissioned one. Like depending on who you get it from, you could be waiting anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of years. Like whether it's a new maker, or a veteran maker, or a god tier maker, or even you, it's still going to be a minimum of a couple of weeks before you at least have the fursuit in your possession. Obviously you could just buy a pre-made suit and then all you have to do is wait for the shipping, but it's still a wait. But yeah, the wait for commissions can be excruciating because it's also really exciting and you're like, oh, I just want my suit now, but it's not my spot in the queue until winter 2019. Seriously, makers will take commissions that far in advance, especially some of the really popular ones, so you could have quite the wait ahead of you. But when you do get your fursuit, you will run into the biggest con of all, at least for me. I believe this is the biggest con when it comes to fursuits, is the travel. It's not so bad if you've got just a partial, but if you've got a giant digigrade full suit like I do, it is the biggest pain in the butt. Bakari's full suit takes up 2 extremely large suitcases. Like, I would take one of these suitcases if I was going on a holiday somewhere for a month. So he takes up 2 of those. And I have to, you know, drag that through airports, onto trains, into people's cars. Like, I can't drive, so I'm gonna try and get into people's cars. Like, I've actually had to not go to meets because the person who gave me a lift underestimated how big my fursuit cases were, and we literally could not put them in the car. And then yeah, with flights, I've got to get so much more baggage allowance. You know, I'm gonna have at least 2 suitcases. Usually I'll try and squeeze my clothing around the fursuit, but sometimes I need a 3rd one. And like sometimes they don't let you, and you need to add more baggage weight, and it's just a real pain. And I've heard horror stories of airlines just straight up losing fursuits. It's scary! And sometimes customs will open them up just to check them and go through them, but they don't pack them back properly because they don't care. So they just shove it back in there, close it up, send it off, and because it's not packed back properly, you get it back really damaged. Carting your fursuit around everywhere is the biggest pain and only tolerable because to me, fursuiting is a labor of love. Speaking of labor, the next con is the maintenance you are going to have to do on your suit. Fursuits are almost like pets with how much you have to care for them, you know. You've got to wash them, you've got to brush them, you've got to disinfect them, you've got to spot clean them, and usually you have to repair them too. Like, pop seams are very common even in suits made from really good makers. You're really going to do regular maintenance on your fursuit to make sure it stays all nice and repaired and fresh and clean, otherwise you're going to get very gross and danky very quickly, and you're going to make your fursuit maker cry because you're not looking after their baby. Different fursuits have different ways and levels of maintaining them, so you gotta take the time to work out what works best for you. Lots of work. And then even after all that care and love you put into looking after them, they don't last forever anyway. Unfortunately, there will come a day where you will have to retire your fursuit because it's just used to the point where it doesn't stay together very well, or it just doesn't look nice anymore. If you look after it well enough, then you should still get at least 5 years out of it, but once it starts to become up to 10 and 15 years, that's when it starts to die. And as the years go by, your body changes too. Maybe you get bigger, maybe you get smaller, maybe you get taller or shorter. Like, you're always changing no matter your age. So you might even just have to sell your suit because it doesn't fit you anymore. Like, I've seen guys have sudden growth spurts in their mid-20s and they've had to sell their suit they've only had for a couple of years. Like, it can be quite unpredictable, and the younger you are when you get your suit, the more likely you are going to change and not be able to fit it anymore. So yeah, there will come a time when you can no longer use your suit. On the plus side, that means you get to get a new one, but it's still really sad to have to sell or retire the old one, especially when you've spent so much money to get it. And my final con, which goes back to the hotness and exercise part of it, you do have to have a good level of fitness to be a good fursuit performer. Like, you don't have to be fit to fursuit, it's just if you care about performing and being really active. If you don't care about that, then that's fine, doesn't matter. But if you want to be, you know, doing acrobats, you want to be, you know, doing fursuit dance competitions, you want to be really charismatic and jumpy around, you're going to want to have to be fit. Like in one of the last meets I went to, I brought Roomba, my bird partial, and I was jumping all around on the playgrounds and stuff, you know, I was climbing on the rope thing, and I was so sore the next day. Like, I was running purely on adrenaline. If I was fit, well, a bit more fit, like, I'm not too bad, but yeah, if I was more fit and I stretched, I didn't stretch, I was stupid, then I would have been a lot better. But yeah, dance competitions, performing, like, you're gonna want endurance to be able to do that often. And yeah, that is pretty much it for my fursuit pros and cons. If there's anything that you think is a pro or a con that I missed, please leave it for me in the comments below, and I will read them, and other people can read them, and it will be good. Alright, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. I'm going to be at VidCon by the time you're watching this, so if you're at VidCon Australia, see if you can find me. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!